Powered by Riverside FM.
"55 years ago, humanity achieved the impossible, a giant leap etched into history. But what if it was all a lie? Tonight on Newsworthy, 2 words and 2 question marks.
He's alive! Have you checked the children? Get out!
You have scoured the podcast world and finally found us, Newsworthy with Steve and Jerry, where we delve into all things mysterious, macabre, or out of this world, and decide if they are truly newsworthy. 2 words and 2 question marks.
Hi, this is Ed Locke with USA Mortgage. Buying your first home can be overwhelming, but here are 5 tips to make the process go smoother. Number 1, find a lender, me, Ed Locke, that can answer any questions you might have and help you get pre-approved. There are multiple options available based on your situation. Number 2, work with a real estate agent you can trust. Number 3, don't rush the process. Take your time and know that the process could take some time. Number 4, consider all the costs. Number 5, get a home inspection and review it with your realtor. Keep these tips in mind, budget for yourself, and you'll be that much closer to making your dream of homeownership a reality. So reach out to me at 502-680-0953. NMLS ID 448908, DAS Acquisition Company, LLC, doing business as USA Mortgage, NMLS ID 227262. This is not a commitment to lend. Additional terms and conditions apply. USA Mortgage is an equal housing opportunity.
Hello, gentlemen.
Hello.
How are you? I am the newest, most proud AARP member. I'm Steve,
I am Jerry.
the original AARP member,
And I'm Brett.
the future AARP member.
Still got about twice my life till I'm there. But
We are all just proud that we finally got Steve to admit his age. He's been making fun of mine for many years, and today we find out that he and his young, lovely wife, who he drug into the AARP by force, finally qualified and was admitted as a member of the AARP.
where you
Yeah.
get free toes, apparently.
I guess.
Because when you're that age, fingers and toes start dropping off, so he gets free ones.
Oh, jeez. That's bad. I always liked with the really bad humor on the side of tow trucks. We don't want an arm and leg, just your toes. Those-
That's funny.
Yeah.
That's pretty funny.
yeah, I thought so too. Man, how you guys doing?
Doing good. I was, we've been getting all this rain. My daughter was upset that it was raining. She wanted to go play outside. She said that she wished she had a gun. She could shoot
A
the rain
gun?
and make it go away.
Really?
Yeah, I told her that would never work. For that, you would need a rainbow.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
That was
I don't
good.
know what's worse, the joke or the fact I was literally in. I was bought in hook, line, and sinker, wondering what the hell.
Rainbow.
Well, that's good. Hawkeye's one of my favorite Marvel heroes, so
Really?
that's cool. Yeah, I like that.
I'll never forget. True story, not a joke, but I was at mom and dad's one time many years ago, probably 25 years ago. One of my young nephews was sitting at the table and he was facing the window. It was June, maybe, and late in the evening, and there were shadows. There's a tree outside the windows, and the wind is blowing. The tree has got shadows and they're moving. And my nephew is maybe 4 years old, and he's intently looking out, and he's like, "What is that?" And they told him it was just the shadows, not to worry about it. Didn't placate him at all. He stared for a minute longer, and he said, "If they don't stop, I'm going to get my gun and shoot them shadows." That was Justin 25 years ago.
Wow, that's crazy.
So how was your week?
Getting better. Today was very painful, but we're healing. We're moving forward. That's
That's
good.
the important part.
Yeah.
And you want to tell people why today was painful?
Oh, I started physical therapy on my
First day
arm
of
today.
PT.
So I
Which
got
is-
out of the sling Monday.
Yeah.
So the
Yeah, I
bone's
didn't
healing
notice your
perfectly.
bruising, yeah.
Yeah, look at there. Isn't that pretty?
You're all
Like
beat
the
up.
bone is
Golly.
healing before the bruising is even gone, which is weird. It's
Right,
just
yeah.
crazy to me. But
Painful day, but the beginning of the healing process. So that's got to make it at least
Yeah.
somewhat comforting.
yeah, it was a lot. Like I didn't realize how atrophied you can become in just 5 weeks. I've had the
Sure.
sling for 5 weeks, and they gave me what was the equipment. I guess being a sling does a couple things. It doesn't allow your arm to move, which becomes atrophied. You lose muscle mass and all that. But it also keeps it in place where it heals. But keeping it in place is the thing that I'm fighting now. That's the first thing I have to get through is the range of motion stuff.
Mhm.
And as an example, they gave me something today that looks basically like a broom handle. They were laying me on my back. And if you're a physical therapist and you listen to the show, then you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But they wanted me just to lift that up like I was doing bench presses with it. And I was so embarrassed because you're in a physical therapy hall and there's all these people around. I physically couldn't lift the stick up straight up. I just couldn't do it. I tried, I cried, I did everything I could do to get that up, and I just
You
couldn't
just doing
get
it
it
with one
up.
arm?
Huh?
Just one arm?
With both arms. Because basically they want you to drag this arm with this arm
I got you.
with the stick, and the stick keeps you balanced.
Right.
So I just couldn't do it. It was embarrassing. But again, step to healing. So,
Right.
There you go.
You might be stronger coming out of it, probably.
Exactly.
you know.
Back to your wrestling shape.
No, I
I
don't.
don't- We don't know he'll be stronger, but he can't be weaker.
Oh, jeez.
There's that.
Wow.
Well, my week wasn't nearly as painful as yours.
No, you've become a bread connoisseur as of
I
late.
did.
You made some delicious bread, brought it
It's
over
awesome.
for dinner. It was
Yeah.
amazing. Good job.
Sourdough starter connoisseur now, yeah. But yeah, my week wasn't as painful as yours, but I didn't have a great week. Apparently, I got my wife pissed off at me.
Oh, no.
Yeah. All I know is the other day I gave her a glue stick instead of her lipstick. She's still not talking to me.
That was on purpose, wasn't it?
Well,
Just can't eat
catch me off air and I'll tell you the truth.
Shame on me. Bad Steve. Bad Steve.
Oh, me. So, anyway, what's our topic?
Oh man, I'm excited tonight. Now we were scheduled to have a guest today. Unfortunately, she couldn't make it, but we have to continue because we'd already done all the
In her
research
honor,
for the
we're
show.
going to
We're
do
going
it
to do
anyway.
it as best we can in Sarah's honor tonight. She's at a
Absolutely.
graduation, so it is that time of year where people are graduating and all that crap. I'm so glad I didn't even realize it until today that they're out of school because I don't have any obligations today
I did see a
anymore.
bunch of people at the school today.
Oh,
I was
yeah.
like, I forgot.
All right. So tonight we are going to decide once and for all, we're going to put it down. Did we or did we not land on the moon? Pretty excited. Brett is on the fence.
Pretty big topic.
Brett is the man who is going to try to convince Jerry and myself that the moon landing was in fact fake.
I'm surprised I have to convince you, honestly, because
See,
Same.
now
I'm really
here's and I'm going. We're ending the show with me tonight, but I'm just going to tell you, it would take probably Jesus coming down to convince me that the moon landing was fake. He would have to come down and say, "Yo, dude, they faked that whole shit." So,
that's crazy.
especially
after some of the videos.
I just want to
he said-
say I am.
and let me just go ahead. No.
No,
I was just
please.
going to say this is coming from a government that at the time was lying
About everything.
about everything to the American people. They lied about the Bay of Pigs. They lied about the was it the Gulf of Tonkin? They lied about the Northfield resolution where they were going to literally bomb American cities to get us into a war with Cuba.
I would even go back to your first statement.
they
They lied
even-
about everything.
Everything.
Literally.
Our CIA literally killed the president of the United
Right.
States at this time. Don't shake your head. Brett and I know it's the truth.
Another conspiracy theory that is not even close to being proven.
It's
but
absolutely
Go ahead
proven
and
the
continue.
CIA killed John F. Kennedy.
Yeah.
So in all of that, I truly, in my heart of heart, believe that we made it to the moon.
I just
But-
want to say,
Oh, go ahead.
I am thoroughly impressed by you.
Really?
There is a conspiracy theory in which you do not believe. I never thought we would live
Honestly,
to see the
this is
day.
the one where I thought he would believe so.
You know what I do believe.
What's that? Oh, all the others. Yes, we
No,
do.
no. I believe I know the reason why a chicken coops only have 2 doors.
Really?
Oh, yeah?
Why is that?
Because if it had 4 doors, it'd be a chicken sedan.
There you go.
That's one of your better ones. I'm not gonna lie.
Anywho, Brett,
Yeah.
convince us that we never made it to the moon.
In this episode, if we went down every rabbit hole, would take a long time.
Years.
So
Years.
I'm gonna hit some of the high points. But yeah, again, we could keep talking about a lot of this stuff. So the first thing I'm gonna talk about is a lot of the issues that people have noticed with some of the photographs.
Before you start, let's just do this. I could watch that whole thing over and over and over again.
And can you believe that was just shot in a studio in California?
No, I don't.
Crazy.
But tell us about it anyway.
Oh, there you go. Free ads.
Gotta love YouTube ads.
Oh man. So first thing I'm gonna talk about is some of the issues that people have seen with the photographs. So the first one is in some of the video, you can see that the American flag in the photos, the American flag that they put into the ground appears to be waving in some of the photos. So this should be impossible because there's no wind on the moon. All right, that's the first thing. The second thing, in the pictures, there are no stars in the background. So you would think that if the photos were taken on the moon, where there is no atmospheric interference, the stars should be visible in the background. Right, Jerry?
No.
Well,
No.
we'll get into that. So also, if you look at some of these pictures, the shadows appear to converge or diverge, which suggests the presence of multiple light sources instead of just the sun. And this is something that you would expect from artificial lighting that they would do in the studio. This was one of the ones that really surprised me, because I did read the explanation, but to me it didn't satisfy me. And then there was another photograph, or there was one photograph that NASA put out that shows a rock, and the letter C is engraved on it. So this leads some people to believe that it was a prop that was put into the photo. So again, some of these photographs are suggesting that maybe this was fabricated. Another thing, the photos that NASA put out were extremely high quality. If you look at other things from the 60s and even the 70s, the quality is not even close to the quality that you get from these images that NASA put out. And again, I guess it could be argued that they do have access to the best equipment of the time, but still, it's almost the quality you would expect of today. And the last thing in regards to the photos and the videos is NASA accidentally apparently erased the video recordings The original video feed was recorded on 1-inch magnetic tapes, and these tapes were reused due to a lack of storage space. And they assumed that the information was of limited value at the time. And while the original tapes were lost, NASA and other researchers have worked to restore and enhance the available footage. And this kind of leads people to say, okay, well, some of these photos look doctored. Well, now they can just say, well, yeah, they all were doctored because we had to recover them. And I was
just going to say, as someone who does production work, it's very easy to record over something that you didn't mean to not record over.
We don't have one of the most important historical events in the history of mankind. I'm just thinking of like my job where I have all these documents and we have all these shared documents that are super easy to delete. And if you delete those, it's kind of a big deal. You got to go through all these steps. So it almost never happens. And you got to think you have evidence from one of the most key events in the history of humankind. And, we just accidentally erased all that. It's just kind of weird. So another thing is the technological feasibility of the mission at all. So humans have landed on the moon 6 times. These were the Apollo 11, 12, 14, 15, 16, and 17 missions, which were all conducted by the United States between 1969 and 1972. No missions prior to that were successful, and all of those missions were a success getting the astronauts there and back after the fact. So, yeah.
Did you know they're getting ready to do another Apollo mission?
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, it's one where we're actually apologizing to the aliens. It's called Apollo G.
You did this joke like a year ago.
Shush your face.
I knew this was coming because I've seen this joke. I've seen this joke. Oh, man. Bad jokes from Steve. You should have left it with the good one that you had earlier.
Probably should have.
If he'd have done that, he'd quit talking years ago.
Oh, man. So they do claim that we haven't returned to the moon. Humans haven't returned to the moon due to political shifts, budgetary constraints, and the perceived risks. So one guy I do want to point out is Gus Grissom. He was a pilot in the Apollo program early on and was known for his strong criticisms of NASA, specifically regarding the Apollo spacecraft's design and safety. Grissom criticized the Apollo 1 spacecraft, calling it a death trap due to its pure oxygen atmosphere and highly combustible materials. Grissom discussed issues with communications, claiming, how are we supposed to communicate from space when we can't communicate between 2 buildings? He criticized the training simulators due to their inability to keep up with the evolving spacecraft's design. And the Apollo 1 did catch fire during a pad test, which resulted in his death and the death of his crewmates. Some believe that this death was staged by the government and that the fire was a cover-up for them pumping cyanide gas into the chamber and killing everyone involved. So, another thing that is really fishy that I didn't even know about until I started researching, in 1969, Apollo 11 astronauts gifted a piece of moon rock to the Netherlands Prime Minister, Willem Drees. The rock was kept in the Prime Minister's private collection until 1988, when it was donated to a local museum in Amsterdam. In 2009, after being on display for years, the moon rock was tested by researchers from the Free University of Amsterdam. The test revealed that the rock was actually just petrified wood. There are some that believe that the rock may have been replaced, but what was strange is the U.S. State Department did investigate this, and they provided no explanation. So the rock's value went from about $500,000 American dollars to around $70. And then lastly, I just want to, I know Steve kind of briefly talked about it, but the government had a lot of motives for faking this moon landing. It proved that America was the most technologically advanced country in the world. It dealt a blow to the USSR, who we were in a Cold War with, who was also trying to put a man on the moon. It could be used as an intimidation tactic during the Cold War, and it incentivized other countries to ally with the U.S. There was also reason to believe that they wanted to divert attention from the Vietnam War that was going on. Again, we talked about this before the show, but with all of our advanced technology today, why have we not sent humans to the moon since 1972? Like, even if it's just like, why haven't we established a base? Because you would think that, like, if you get a base on the moon, you're the first country to get a base on the moon. You dominate space. You've won space basically. So to me, that would just be something that I feel like a lot of governments would want to take advantage of and haven't.
Is there in your research, did you notice if the moon has any harvestable resources?
Well, I didn't see that in the research, no. But we've only been there 6 times, so.
Well, my question is, in that 6 times, did we find anything there that we couldn't live without?
I didn't.
Because that would make it financially more
right, yeah.
feasible for us to go back and build a base on the moon. Like, I would find it very much easier to go to Mars if we found something on Mars that we could use here on Earth.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. But see, on Mars, we've had the rovers and stuff and I know we've sent a bunch of stuff to the moon as well.
We've had many rovers
right,
on the moon,
right.
collecting samples.
I think that just for like a military advantage, I just don't see why you would not want to put some sort of military base on the moon.
You would.
Yeah, that's right.
We don't have the technology to do that today.
Yeah.
Not 10 years ago, not 20. Today, we do not have the technology to put a base on the moon.
So if we got a man on the moon in the 70s,
sure.
I mean, all the technological, almost 60 years have passed, and we have, almost 60 years.
55.
Yeah. So, if we would have kept going, we'd have that technology.
We have kept going.
Well, that's not entirely true. The Apollo program has not kept going.
I didn't say that it had, but he said if we kept going, meaning I assume technological, scientific progress, we have kept going.
Oh, yeah.
What we have not done, mainly, you asked why have we not been back? What purpose do we have of putting man back there? Everything that we wanted, we have been able to send rovers and get. So at this point, the question is, what would man do that the rovers have not been able to do? And I haven't read anywhere that there's a need for man to be back on the moon.
Or we could take Neil Armstrong at his word and understand why we haven't been back.
No.
On the Apollo 11 mission, he is quoted as saying, those babies are huge short, enormous. Oh, God, you wouldn't believe it. I'm telling you, there are spacecraft out here lined up on the far side of the crater edge. They're here on the moon, and they're watching us.
I thought we had an unwritten rule that there's only one attempt allowed per show for a joke.
That's fact.
That's not fact.
That
is not fact.
That was recorded on the medical line of Apollo 11 mission.
No.
Do we want to get into Stanley Kubrick at all? Or do we want to just...
I know, it's part of it. I think so.
Okay, I said that the motives was the last thing, but just to touch on this real quick, Stanley Kubrick, who directed A Space Odyssey, 2001 A Space Odyssey, he directed The Shining, super talented film producer and director. So people believe that he is the one who filmed all the Apollo missions footage. They believe that he created the sets. He took the pictures. And if you look at his movie The Shining, which came out after the Apollo 11 moon landing, there's a lot of homages to the Apollo missions. For example, Danny's sweater in the movie. He's the young boy in the film. He wears a knitted Apollo 11 sweater, and this is seen by some as a direct reference to the mission. There's also a room that's numbered 237, which actually wasn't wasn't a room number in the actual hotel, and it's often interpreted as a reference to the mean distance between Earth and the moon, which is around 237,000 miles. The carpet pattern in the film is compared to the Apollo launching pad. And then the number 237 appearing on the elevator's display is often linked to the mean distance between the Earth and the moon, further suggesting the film's connection to the space race. Another thing, which Steve, you sent this video out this week. I didn't even see it, but Stanley Kubrick actually came out and said that he did film the Apollo missions and that it was all faked. So again, and I think that if you take any one of these things, and obviously there's explanations which Jerry and Steve will get into, but if you take any one of these things, I'm like, okay, that can easily be explained away. But then there's a lot of things that stack up on each other, and it makes you start to wonder.
I was just going to add a few more to your fire, if you would. So one of the big key points that people who don't do it or very much research point out is when you see the Apollo spacesuits on display, the foot pad pattern is different on the spacesuit than is the tracks made actually on the moon. There's that.
Is that true?
No, it's very true, but there's a reason for that.
Okay. What's the reason?
Huh?
What's the reason?
The reason is before they actually went on the pads on the bottom of the suits were for inside the thing. They actually put like booties on before they went out
Just
onto
not the
the
pads
moon.
they used on the moon.
Correct. And same shoes, they just put
Makes sense.
booties on. The Van Allen radiation belts, we're not supposed to, as humans, or even our equipment, is supposed to be able to pass through the Van Allen radiation belts safely. Some
That's
people
long been disproven, though.
maybe, but some
No,
people
maybe.
some people say that the diameter of the space shuttle, which literally had less than 1/8 of an inch of aluminum, was not enough or sufficient enough to protect humans. I'm just throwing things out there. We can get into dispatching them here in a second.
So one thing I want to mention, you're talking about say that again, the last part. The thickness
The
of
thickness of the capsule.
the capsule. The capsule. He told about 6 trips that America has made. How many
Right.
other countries have made?
0.
You wrong. 5 different countries have landed on the moon.
No,
5.
not humans.
I didn't say humans, but we're talking about space capsules that have went through the same thing.
But you
And
wouldn't
if the equipment-
need to worry about radiation.
No. He said that this radiation would damage our equipment,
It
and
would-
the equipment wouldn't be able to survive.
would, if it wasn't shielded today, would be much more detrimental than it was in 1959.
The only reason I brought in 59, you mean 69?
69.
The only reason I brought it up is when your argument, you're talking about it like it's one specific vehicle. It was numerous
No.
vehicles. 6 the United States sent.
I just meant going through the
I
Van
know.
Allen radiation belt.
I get that, but my point is, we made 6 crewed missions.
Mhm.
How many uncrewed missions have we sent? Several. 5 other nations have also sent. So there's a multitude of countries and different vehicles that we're
So
talking
Russia-
about, not just one.
China, India, Japan. Can't remember the
I've
names.
got the list somewhere.
But
Well,
anyways,
all I was saying with that is at the time, they didn't think that was possible.
Yeah.
And today's work technology, it would be much more susceptible to the radiation than it would have been in 1969. That brings me to my next point. Some people believe that Apollo's computers were just way too primitive to accomplish such a mission. Just want to throw those others
And I
out
mean,
there.
they have. You're right. The people say that, and they have absolutely nothing to substantiate that claim. Nothing.
Just throwing it out there.
well, I'm sure. I remember I was told like in school that like the calculator I held had more technology than the first rocket that went.
Many of us were told that.
Apollo 11.
Same
Just to
thing.
put it in layman's terms, the average cell phone today has 10 million times the computing power than the entire first Apollo mission did.
Right.
I
In
don't know
one
what he's
cell
talking
phone.
about.
So, Brett, did you have anything else that
That was pretty much it.
And that's a lot. I mean, there's a lot of things, especially when you get into some of the pictures and you're looking at the one thing that could sway me in some way, some form or fashion isn't the typicals. It is, I watched a whole documentary on the lighting of the pictures on the moon. And how the lighting looks with the shadowing. It's really boring stuff, but it's almost boring enough to make me believe it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But Jerry thinks you're wrong on everything. Tell us about it, Jerry.
No, not everything.
Oh,
Just most.
Oh, let's find out.
I'll go into
Jerry.
the arguments, but first I want to address a couple of things that I was having to bite my tongue on earlier. You mentioned no stars in the photographs.
Or little to no stars. Yeah.
Yeah. Several of the photographs, none. Do you know where else you can see no stars on Earth during daytime?
Or
Daytime?
during night if you're in the city.
But everywhere on the Earth during daytime, you can't see stars.
Yeah.
Which side of the moon were we on?
No, I know.
Guess what? If you'd went to the far side of the moon where it's nighttime,
No, I agree.
stars
I
would
agree
have
with that argument. I just didn't want to say it because I didn't want to steal your thunder. But I do agree with that one. I do agree that it makes sense why there's no because the cameras would have been oh my gosh, I have it somewhere.
They were optimized
For
to prevent the brightness of
right, because
the
you have
moon.
the brightness of the moon from the sun, and then you have the brightness of the
and
astronaut
also
suits
it's the day side of the moon.
Right.
It's not nighttime. You mentioned the flag, and it appears to ripple, right? Thankfully, we had scientists smart enough to figure out there is no atmosphere on the moon. There's no wind on the moon. And if we don't do something, we're going to have a flag that hangs straight down.
Right.
It's going to be the ugliest, stupidest picture ever known of a flag. So they designed a flag that has metal rods sewn in them that makes it appear as if they're moving. Without these wires, the flag would have hung straight down, making for one of the most lackluster photos ever taken. That was by design, that it was meant to appear to move, to give a photorealistic prop.
So that's all fine and dandy. It is something that I would come out and say after the fact too. Like, oh, we just designed it to ripple that way. Like I'm about to
agree with
disagree. It could have been. I feel like that argument is just kind of mute. It's just like, well, they could have designed it that way, or they could have said that they.
I would agree. I don't think that argument convinces anyone of anything. It just mutes the other one. You mentioned the parallel shadows, right?
Right.
Do you know what else makes parallel lines appear to converge? Perspective. If you ever saw a picture of two railroad tracks going off into the distance, they appear to converge.
Right.
Due to perspective on the far end. That's exactly what happened here. The rock, the sea rock, right? Again, this is one that I don't think is going to convince anyone either way, but scientists say that it is a piece of debris, possibly hair, on the original print. Again, that's what they would say, right?
Right.
Another one you didn't mention that many of the conspiracy theory people say is, why did the astronauts' footprints leave marks that can be seen, yet the lunar module that landed, the feet didn't in many cases? Believe it or not, you're an engineer. You should be able to figure this one out. They say that in most places, the mass of the entire module, even though it was far heavier, was more evenly distributed than the astronauts' weight was in their own boots.
Yeah.
That's what they say. The Van Allen belts that Steve mentioned, scientists say that the spaceships passed through them quickly enough that the spacecraft did provide sufficient shielding and did not absorb anywhere near the full dosage. You mentioned the one rock that there was questions about during the research. Amsterdam, I think, was where the research was done. We brought back over 380 kilograms of rocks that were studied by scientists around the world. We gave pieces of these samples to countries around the world. and there's problems with one. What about the other 379 kilograms that scientists say these did not come from Earth?
Yeah.
Yeah. You mentioned the base on the moon. I already gave my argument for that. To this day, we still do not have the technology to build a long-term base on the moon. We certainly want to there or on Mars, as Elon Musk wants to do. Steve's got his hand up. I'm sure he has important information to share
I
with
do
us.
have important information as to why we don't have a base on the moon.
What is it?
According to an interview between Neil Armstrong and an unnamed professor with NASA at a NASA symposium, I want to read an excerpt from the interview.
Just wonder why the person's unnamed.
Don't know. Professor, what really
leaves
happened out there
credibility
with Apollo 11? Armstrong, it was incredible. Of course, we'd always known there was a possibility. The fact is, we were warned off. There was never any questions of a space station or a moon city. Professor, how do you mean warned off? I can't go into details except to say that their ships were far superior in both size and technology. Boy, they were big and menacing. There was no question of a space station. But NASA had other missions after Apollo 11. Naturally, NASA was committed at the time, but couldn't risk a panic on Earth. It was a quick scoop and back up again. That was published in Top Secret, page 186, or above Top Secret, which is a magazine. And it was according to Dr. Vladimir Azalyaza, a physicist and professor of mathematics at Moscow University. He says Neil Armstrong relayed the message to Mission Control that two large mysterious objects were watching them after having landed near the moon module. But his message was never heard by the public because NASA censored it. Again, above Top Secret, that's a book that was written, page 384. Just want to throw that
I always
out there.
love sources that start off with unnamed scientists. By the way, I'd never heard of Top Secret magazine.
Above Top Secret. It's a book.
Huh?
It's a book, Above Top Secret.
You said a magazine earlier.
I lied. Actually, I didn't lie. I just misspoke. I'm sorry.
We're just going to start calling you the government.
Anywho, I just wanted to continue as to why we didn't have bases on the moon. I was supporting your area.
Do you not see why I said what I did earlier that I'm so impressed? We found something he doesn't, because that's that website he goes to for evidence. That is where he goes. Anyway, July 20th, 1969, Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin landed on the moon for the first time ever. We probably all heard the video or the audio that Steve played. The majority of us have probably saw the video, right?
Yep.
Brett would have us believe that was filmed in Hollywood. But the facts say that isn't the case. Not only was Buzz Aldrin and Neil Armstrong there was a total of 12 astronauts that I think he or Steve one mentioned that have been on the moon during 6 different missions, the last being in 1972. I mentioned earlier that the Apollo program brought back a total of over 380 kilograms of rocks, soil, and core samples, which have been studied extensively throughout the world. These samples exhibit unique properties such as a lack of water and specific isotopic signatures consistent with a lunar origin, not something that could be fabricated on Earth.
Here's one thing I want to ask. Could we have gotten those from the rovers that we sent?
Oh, absolutely. I'm sure some of them eventually did come from rovers. The early ones, first of all, let's digress. You're now saying that the moon landing wasn't faked, but only the crewed landings are faked, that we did actually go there and send some rovers?
I 100% believe we went to we've definitely sent a rocket to the moon.
Okay. Because see, you're different. That's different than most.
I'm just questioning
whether we
the
got
fact
people
that if
there.
we've gotten people there.
Okay.
yet.
I didn't know that because most people think that the entire thing was
We've
fake.
been to Mars. We have a rover on Mars. I 100% believe that.
Not only that, we have 2 Mars rovers that are the size of dump trucks.
Keep in mind that most people who believe your argument believe that we've never left the stratosphere.
And let me just point this out because
We're doing this for a show.
100%. I'm more like I kind of see that there's a lot of weird things, but I'm also like, I'm in the middle. I'm
If you're on a debate team and you're assigned a specific
Right.
topic to discuss, it's your job to convince people of that, whether you believe in it or not.
Yeah.
And that, they say, is the greatest sign of a good debater,
right.
is someone that can convince people of
Debate
other.
both sides.
No, they can convince someone of something that they don't believe in themselves.
Yeah.
You have
That
to
would-
be Steve
No.
to be able to do. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I can't.
Well,
say
they call you the master debater, don't they?
that. Well, I used to be, but it broke my arm.
Oh, okay. That would slow things down, wouldn't it?
It sure does. Oh,
Can we get back to some samples?
please do.
380 pounds of lunar samples. These samples have been studied by the United States, United Kingdom, France, Germany, Japan, Russia, and Pakistan. China's also landed their own lunar expeditions with robotic rovers and brought back their own soil and rock samples that have also been studied extensively. And yet, some say it was all faked. A total of 5 nations, you asked which one earlier? Total of 5 nations, the United States, the Soviet Union, China, India, and Japan, I think you named them all, have all successfully landed on the moon. Now, the U.S. is the only country to have put humans on the moon. From these missions, there are tens of thousands of photos, videos, maps, audio clips from the moon itself that are available to the general public. There are also hundreds of photos and videos available from the spacecraft showing takeoff from the Earth, approach to the moon, and the landings on the moon itself. The Apollo Lunar Surface Journal website, for instance, has all of those from the Apollo missions. You can watch it. You can watch the videos. You can see the pictures. If you want to watch China's Chang's probe land on the far side of the moon, that video's online. We can leave a link to it. And yet some say the moon landing was just a hoax. Earlier you mentioned about some of the really high resolution videos and photos. I'm not for sure which ones you're talking about. The vast majority are not high resolution. The video itself that Steve, he can send you a link to.
Right. No. Yeah. I've seen it.
That is extremely grainy,
I'll try and
extremely
find
low
those.
resolution. Now, in 2009, the United States launched the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter that has taken many high-resolution images of all the Apollo landing sites. These images clearly show to this day the descent stages of the modules, tracks left by the astronauts and rovers, and even equipment that we left behind. But that wasn't sent until 2009. So that might be some of the high resolution, because when you go back to the 60s,
I mean, there's
a
an
lot of
astronaut right
those.
there. Like this one. I don't know. That's just one example. I
Yeah.
have to look through, but this
A lot of
It's Apollo 11.
there are some that are high resolution. A lot of them are not. The again, the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter, everything that it's showing. And again, when I did this, I didn't know you were taking the stance that we had actually got to the moon. I thought you were going to say that everything was fake, which the majority of the
If
people
you are
do
a
claim.
flat earther, everything is fake.
Yeah.
You can't believe that we actually went to the moon and be.
You can't have left Earth's
flat
atmosphere.
earther. Right.
There's a bubble that's impossible to escape. So
The firmament. Yeah.
there were over 400,000 people working on the Apollo programs alone. That's almost 500,000 people. You're telling me that all 500,000 people are telling the same story, went to their deathbed telling the same story, and never admitted it was a hoax? Oh, we were really filming this in a studio in Hollywood? 400,000 people. Multiple organizations, including the Soviet Union. Let me finish this one second.
Sure.
Track the missions. You mentioned the Soviets and us were in a bitter Cold War race with the United States. They had advanced tracking capabilities and ever motivation to expose a fraud. But they never disputed the achievement. Not once. Instead, they acknowledged the American achievement. Go ahead.
I was just going to bring up most people who do not believe in the moon landings. If you want a resource to reach out to and look at, and you are in that mindset, Bart Seibel has a website. He is one of the proponents, the big proponents of about everything being fake. I don't buy into a lot of that, but
I
you
saw
can
that guy. Yeah.
you can definitely check him out on Joe Rogan or go to straight to his website. It's bartsibrel.com.
Yeah, because he made the documentary, right?
Mm-hmm.
And because I think in that documentary he was interviewing one of the astronauts. And he had some video, and I guess he got a recording of the astronaut saying, "You know what? Like, we should probably call the CIA to wax that guy."
Yeah, because he was there under false pretense or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah. Anywho, I didn't mean to. If you are a flat earther, you simply just can't believe in this, and I don't buy into that. So,
are you almost? Do you have more?
Oh yeah.
Well, I did want to mention that there's a third belief that we did go to the moon, like you were saying, but they didn't want to show what we actually saw and found there. So like that this was fabricated, but we actually did go to the moon. The only reason it was fabricated is because the government didn't want everyone to see what we actually saw there.
basically, the Transformer movie.
Basically, yeah.
I mean, what evidence do they have of this?
It's just people who say that they talk to someone who knows the astronaut.
So a couple of good
things
LSD
like
parties, basically.
And again, I just wanted to bring up that that's an argument. I'm not saying I believe or don't believe it.
Do you guys remember? He would. You're too young, probably. Several years ago, Russell Westbrook did a Mountain Dew commercial. They say you shouldn't eat seafood in Oklahoma. They say you shouldn't do this. They say you shouldn't do that. At the end of the day, don't do they, do you. Do you remember that commercial?
Nope.
And his thing is they say a lot of things. That's what brought it to mind. They say a lot of stuff. Doesn't mean it's true.
Right.
Yeah, we're talking about the Soviet Unions. We were in a huge, bitter race to the moon.
And one that they were beating us on a lot of fronts.
Yes.
Yeah.
If this was fake, why would they have not called us out on it? Why would they have admitted, okay, they did it and quit trying themselves and never did end up putting a man on the moon? Because at that point, isn't the race over when someone wins?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, you're racing for second or third place, and what point is that? Radio telescopes worldwide, including Australia's Parkes Observatory, received signals from the moon during Apollo 11's broadcast. And yet, there are those that claim it was all faked. The Apollo missions 11, 14, and 15, they left behind special mirrors called retroreflectors. You guys heard of these?
Yeah.
They're on the moon today. Scientists on Earth can, and to this day do, fire lasers at these reflectors, which can measure to the 1,000th of an inch
Right.
Which is
the distance.
how we know
here and there.
those reflectors are the reason we know we're losing our moon slowly but surely.
Again, I suppose it's theoretically possible that was put there by some robots. But you can't have those without a moon landing.
Yeah, you
Of
had
some
to have gone
sort.
to the moon. Yeah, for sure. That's if you guys see The Big Bang Theory.
I thought you were talking about the moon being there by some robots, which that's a whole nother episode. Just say it.
It's actually a mothership.
Yeah, it's another one.
Yeah, The Big Bang Theory has an episode where they do that. They shoot the laser at it, it comes back, and they measure the.
But yeah, the reflectors obviously confirmed that objects were placed there by humans. We did not have robots in the 60s that were capable of doing this. The reflector mirrors by themselves proved that we were there. And yet, some say the moon landings never happened. In conclusion, in over 50 years, despite hundreds of thousands of people involved in many countries on several continents, in a highly competitive Cold War environment, absolutely no credible evidence of a hoax has ever emerged. There is no way you could keep a secret so massive silent for that period of time. We've talked about it. I don't believe you can get one family together for a Thanksgiving meal without somebody disagreeing about something. Whether it's the politics, religion might get brought up, whether it's who's the real daddy of Myrtle's baby, there's going to be a disagreement about something. You okay over there, Steve?
Yeah.
I don't know if I am. But anyway, There's no way you can have 500,000 people involved in a project that's a hoax, that's all fake, and keep those people quiet forever. You can't do it.
You threaten their family. You can do it.
All 500,000 and their families and their families and their how many?
I mean,
From
somebody
countries
threatened my
all around the
family, I'd
world.
shut up.
Now, there are thousands of photos, videos, audio clips, drawings, and maps that confirm the moon landings. We are to this day able to use and do use the reflector mirrors left on the moon. And yet, some will continue to say it never happened. It was all fake. I'm done.
He's like, I'm done. I'm out. Mic drop. I'm glad you didn't drop the mic. They're expensive.
I do have one more thing. You guys know who Theo Von is, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
He said he had a podcast with Buzz Aldrin. He said he looked into his eyes and he was like, I don't really believe he went to the bed. So if you're you can take Theo Von's word for it.
Well, there you go. We answered that argument.
I think that young people like Theo Von vastly underestimate what older people can and have done in their life.
Like you.
If you'd have ever met my grandfather, you would have never in a million years thought that he was a proud Navy man who had done the deeds.
Yeah.
Because he just didn't show. Your father, same way, he didn't show that side. In today's world, people get off by telling all about their deeds, whereas that generation, they did their job and they went home and they didn't talk about it, regardless of what their job was.
In that time, especially like we're talking like World War II, that era. I mean, everyone was in the war. Everyone was
right
in the military. It wasn't like so there was nothing to boast about. Everybody had did the same.
Even if they could, they wouldn't, and if they did, they were shunned.
Right.
Period.
Right.
You went. You did your job. You served your time. You came home. You know, and for someone to get into Buzz Aldrin's face, well, we know how that turns out. He's a man's man. At 80 years old, knocked the reporter out because he was getting all up in his grill. You just don't mess with that generation. That's just dumb on Theo Von. So, I mean, I'm surprised he didn't get knocked out. He probably didn't have the balls to say it to his face.
No, he didn't say it.
Exactly. That's the only thing. I mean, you know, if you're going to talk smack like that to somebody, at least say it to their face. I mean, that's ridiculous. So Jerry covered a bunch of the things that made these things. He covered the flag and the stars not being in the camera, you know, the radiation belts. Obviously, NASA is smart enough to give trajectories that would get us through those safely with the proper equipment. The fact that the computers are too primitive, yes, but a calculator does what it's supposed to do, and you don't get much more primitive than that. The computers that they had on board were very specific, mission specific, were created and made by MIT engineers. So they were found to be very successful. I just want to say, at the end of the day, and I kind of started with this a little bit, the moon landings, beginning with Apollo 11 in 1969, stands as one of humanity's most profound and awe-inspiring achievements. They were not just a triumph of engineering and science, but a testament to the boundless curiosity and courage of the human spirit. In an era marked by division, uncertainty, lies by the government, the sight of Neil Armstrong stepping on a lunar surface united the world, not just the United States, the entire world in wonder and possibility, even if it was just for a few minutes. It proved that with vision, collaboration, and determination, we could absolutely reach beyond our earthly bounds and touch the stars. As we look back on that moment, we are reminded that the moon landings were not the end of a journey, but the beginning of a new chapter in our exploration in the cosmos, one that continues today. They are a beacon of what we can accomplish when we dare to dream boldly and work together. And also, in the words of Captain Jean-Luc Picard, we have to end with this. Space, the final frontier. These are the voyages of the Starship Enterprise, its continuing mission, to explore strange new worlds, seek out new life and new civilizations, and to boldly go where no one has gone before. That was an interesting episode, but our journey isn't over yet. If you stay tuned, we have an exciting bonus story coming up after this commercial break.
Hi, this is Ed Locke with USA Mortgage. When it comes to buying a home, the process can be overwhelming and confusing. With so many options, it can be hard to know where to start. That's why it's important to work with a certified mortgage loan originator. I have the knowledge and expertise to guide you through the process and find the best mortgage option for you. I will work with you every step of the way to ensure that you are getting the best deal possible. So if you're looking to purchase or refinance, please reach out to me at 502-680-0953. So don't take on the stress of buying a home alone. Work with me and I will make your dream a reality. Trust the professionals and make your home buying experience a positive one. MLS ID 448908, DAS Acquisition Company, LLC, doing business as USA Mortgage, MLS ID 227262. This is not a commitment to lend. Additional terms and conditions apply. USA Mortgage is equal housing opportunity.
If you would like to share suggestions for future episodes, an intriguing ghost story, or simply tell us how much you love or hate us, please get in touch with us. You can reach us via email at newsworthywithstephencherry@gmail.com or send us a text at area code 540-709-1318.
And now, back to the story. In continuing with our space theme tonight, we might have just had our first look at Planet 9. Actually, Planet 10. I'm a big believer Pluto's still Planet 9. Scientists say they've spotted a strange object in 2 old infrared sky surveys, and it could be the strongest sign yet that Planet 9 is real. The idea of Planet 9 first came up in 2016 when astronomers noticed some weird orbital patterns in icy objects way beyond Neptune. They figured something big, maybe 10 times the mass of Earth, might be hiding out there, even way past Pluto. Now a team led by Terry Long Fan from the National Hoya University, that's a mouthful, has found a faint object in data from the IRAS satellites in 1983 and the AKARI in 2006 space telescopes. It looks like it moved just enough over time to suggest that it's actually orbiting the sun from a whopping 700 AU miles, that's about 65 billion miles, just so you know, away. Based on how bright it is in infrared, it could be even more massive than Neptune and may take thousands of years to complete a single orbit. Although it's not confirmed yet, this find is very exciting because it shows up in both telescope data sets, something that has not happened with other Planet 9 candidates. Next up, astronomers plan to take a closer look, looking through some of the world's most powerful telescopes, like the Dark Energy Chimera in Chile. If it turns out to be real, Planet 9 could completely change how we think about our solar system. It might have formed near the gas giants and got kicked out, or maybe it was even captured from another star system. Either way, with new observatories like the Vera C. Rubin Observatory and the Nancy Grace Roman Telescope coming soon online, Planet 9 might not be hiding for very much longer. Today's episode brought to you by our great sponsors, Ed Locke at USA Mortgage and Smoking Gun Jerky of Lincoln, Nebraska. Use code CRYPTID10 for a great discount. And Jerry, if you can't see the light,
Be the light.